Hello everyone and welcome to another weekly recap. Custa News Network, I believe we're calling this the version 2, where we just sort of recap everything that happened in the week. This is coming to you a little bit later, but hey, you know, it was Memorial Day. I was taking some time off, okay? So let's catch up on what happened over the weekend because a lot of things did happen. We had the pick'ems, well, my pick'ems in the APAC region, pretty good. All things considered, because APAC is just off the goop. They got to work out who's good, who's bad. Over this weekend, we saw the Seoul Dynasty, the Shanghai Dragons, the Hangzhou Spark, and the Philadelphia Fusion clinch the top 4 seeds for the Kickoff Clash, and they will be competing in the APAC region. We've sort of seen different looks from all these teams, and I don't think I'll talk about all the individual games because there's just so many games, and I actually haven't been able to catch up on every single one of them. But let's talk about the general gist. The Philadelphia Fusion have fallen off a little bit, opposed to what we said in the opening weekend. They are actually not just the best team in the league by a large margin. For me, I feel like the biggest issue that they're having right now is they're having good individual moments, like Zest especially, but it feels like they have one mode, and that's just aggression. And as soon as they start getting punished by that for good teams, they don't really seem to have that sort of adaptation in their wheelhouse. So it seems like they still body like the lower end teams, but as soon as someone can match their, I guess, individual skill and their prowess, they seem to start falling over a little bit. The Seoul Dynasty are really starting to hit their peaks. The Seoul Dynasty have been looking very, very good. We were a little worried about them heading into the start of the season, and they weren't performing as consistently as we would like. But they had a great match against the Shanghai Dragons just here, in which, as much as it's 3-1 against them, it was still a good performance by both teams. Seoul Dynasty should have probably won Watchpoint Gibraltar. They full held the Shanghai Dragons only to get counter full held. So some mistakes, I think, from Seoul Dynasty. Shanghai Dragons playing well, though. Really just sort of putting on a clinic and sort of starting to step up to that level we expected from them. They have an incredible roster, but it feels like they haven't been able to find what they would like to play. In their most recent match against Seoul Dynasty, they played pretty much exclusively Fate on the Winston with Who Are You on the Genji. It's a good look for them. As much as maybe they could get value out of putting Void in to play the Zarya, I think it is just a better look for them playing the Winston. But yeah, those 4 teams. Sorry, the Hangzhou Spark. I forgot about the Hangzhou Spark. Hangzhou has looked very, very good. A team that just loves to play different compositions. And I think this will probably, in my opinion, be the downfall of the Hangzhou Spark. It just feels like they don't have a good game plan. They just sort of like mix things up around and down and that kind of stuff. Just too much variance. They have a great team that is able to play at that variance, but I think when they have to consistently play against Seoul Dynasty, Shanghai Dragons, Philadelphia Fusion, they might get matched. So we'll see what ends up happening. The other teams out there, Los Angeles Valiant got their first win, so they're 1-5. They're not a bottom end team like we saw from them last year, where it was like, are they going to get a map? And they went like 0-16. It was more of a, when are they going to win a match? And they finally got the win over the Chengdu Hunters. Dia gets his first win in the Overwatch League, which feels absolutely ridiculous. Dia, someone who has been in the league for, I believe it was in the Chinese class, 1,634 days, got his first win. Well, he hasn't been in the league. Since he had his debut in the league. 1,634 days, absolutely ridiculous, especially for the caliber of player that we know Dia is. Chengdu Hunters are continuously struggling. It feels like they're not able to... It feels like if they can enable Jinmu to be able to just play the Genji, it looks good. But as soon as Jinmu starts switching around, Gaga gets a little silly, starts like switching heroes at the drop of a hat, it feels like Chengdu Hunters like fall apart, like at a catastrophic level. As soon as they're not able to just play whatever they want to do, it looks bad. Lee's trying to carry this team as much as he can. Honestly, the backline's been quite good for Chengdu as well, but just feels like Jinmu and Gaga are getting a little too spicy for my like. And Guangzhou Charge. I think Guangzhou had a better weekend. Not great. Actually, never mind. They seem to have just got 3-0 by Seoul and 3-0 by Spark. I think maybe I'm just thinking about their map 5 against the Shanghai Dragons. Like, they have good moments. It just feels like the APAC region is so stacked that they just never get any momentum. A lot of the same issues. I honestly haven't watched many Guangzhou games. I think the only one I did watch was the Shanghai Guangzhou one, so that's why I was speaking of that. But yeah, that's the APAC region in a nutshell. I think it's kind of chaotic. They don't really have as set of a meta as we see in North America. Like in North America, we have pretty firmly like teams sticking to one thing. Houston plays the Doom, London plays the Rush, but then everyone else is playing like you're either playing the Dallas Fuel Zarya or you're playing like the San Francisco Shock Winston Dive. Like that's pretty easy to like put together. While the APAC region, it feels like these teams are flipping around what they do. They're leaning more onto the Winston Genji. Like we don't see much Genji anymore in North America, but these teams, they're sticking more to the Winston. Not many teams are playing the Zarya except for the Los Angeles Valiant. Like Los Angeles Valiant is like one of the few teams that is really leaning into the Zarya composition. But yeah, so that's the APAC region. Let's talk about the West. West was an interesting weekend. We saw some back and forth. Los Angeles Gladiators went 2-0. I'm trying to think of if there are any crazy storylines. Vancouver got bopped by the Shock, but honestly looked okay at times. Like Vancouver took a map against the San Francisco Shock. I don't think, what was that? A full hold on Ike by Vancouver. Then Shock came back mad and sort of bopped him. Defiant looking pretty solid going into the kickoff clash, but they don't look to be one of the best teams. I wouldn't be surprised to see Toronto sort of fall out of the kickoff clash pretty quickly. Good players, just doesn't really feel like they have that power that we see from, like your Gladiators, your San Francisco Shocks, your Dallas Fuels, right? So they can match those teams and they can be competitive, but I don't see them getting consistent wins against them. But had a good win against New York Excelsior, New York Excelsior just had a brutal kickoff clash. Hoping to see them bounce back in the next tournament. Boston Uprising, as a professional organization, got professionally brutalized by the Dallas Fuel. That's the weakness of copying someone else's comp. So I liked what Boston Uprising did. They played Punk. They switched to Itzel on Dorado, I believe it was. But the maps were okay. Like it's not super great, but also not great. But Dallas Fuel is just absolutely dominant. No one's shown an ability to beat this Hanbin, Edison, Reaper, Zarya composition. Houston Outlaws had a close series against the Paris Eternal. I actually predicted a 3-2 right here. So why don't I remember this match very well? Houston versus Paris. I might have to go back and look at this match. Why was this match so close? Is this stream all white? Whoa, is everyone good? I've tried refreshing. Is anyone white screen? Mostly everyone's good? I'm going to refresh the screen as well. If that's not working, then I don't know. That sounds like that's on you guys. Yep, good. It's fine. See a normal screen. All right. Well, maybe you guys, it's probably on your ends if you guys are having issue. I tried refreshing. So we'll keep it going. We'll keep the good times going. Yeah, what happened in the Houston-Paris match? Oh yeah, Paris played a lot of the Vestola Zarya with Wob on Reaper. It looked better. Like, it felt like they'd actually practiced it. When we saw the Vestola Zarya in the past, it felt like they were just like, fuck it, let's play Zarya. While it actually looked like they were doing well, Houston Outlaws do not look good on the Zarya composition. The Piggy Zarya, it doesn't feel like they have good synergy. Like, something about what they're doing just doesn't feel like they're having the same level of impact as, these other teams that are playing the Zarya. I feel like Houston theoretically should be good with it, right? Like, they have good players in those roles. But I don't know. It feels like the Dante Doomfist. I personally, if I was Houston, I would go into the kickoff clash and just see how well the Doomfist works. Just go down with that ship. It's something that they've committed so much to in the kickoff clash. It's probably their best bet to kind of like cheese people out of these matches. But I don't know. Like, I don't think it's going to work against the big three. But they can probably get some wins against some of these other teams. So we'll see. We'll see. Washington Justice continue to disappoint. Validation to committing to my thing. They lost to Florida Mayhem. Washington, like, it was funny because the first map, Decay pounded, right? Decay was like really good. I'm like, oh shit, Washington's gonna be good. This is gonna be a problem. And then all of a sudden, the good old fashioned Washington Justice that seemed to like lose all coordination came out. Florida Mayhem just played a much cleaner game. And it feels like as soon as they shut down Decay, no one else can do anything. Like, as soon as they manage to keep slow down Decay, keep him away, stop him from having these massive impacts. All of a sudden, Mag gets no value. Happy then has no space to shoot with. And then it all just kind of like periodically falls apart. I don't think it's an individual skill thing. This is kind of like the Houston Outlaws on the Xayah composition. They just don't seem to understand, right, why this is happening. Like it doesn't make sense for the caliber of team that they have. So Washington Justice, they did qualify for the Kickoff Clash. They got picked first, I believe it was, by the San Francisco Shock. So San Francisco Shock will be playing Washington in the first round. Not too crazy. I think San Francisco Shock like that matchup of the Winston versus Winston because Washington don't want to play the Xayah composition. So Shock just think they're better at the same composition that Washington are going to play, which is probably true. I brought this question up to Sam in the selection interview. Like, are you afraid that if Decay and Happy come to play, it can be a very different series than what we imagine? Like, if they start getting space and they start getting control, I am more afraid of playing like the Washington Justice than I am of playing the Toronto Defiant. If I was a team personally, I think Toronto has... I feel like I know what I'm going to get. Like, I feel like I know what their peak is going to be. While Washington, I don't know what Washington Justice I'm going to play against. And that would scare the crap out of me. So, Shock picks Houston. No, Houston is playing against the Gladiators. The Gladiators pick Houston. That's what ended up with that the good bants by Hunter and Jake. So we'll look at the bracket in a second. But that's essentially what happened in the North American region, except for, and this is going to pivot into our next point, the Atlanta Reign. The Atlanta Reign lost to the London Spitfire. London Spitfire played Brawl, played their rush style, and Atlanta Reign just didn't have an answer to it. Gator said at the beginning of like, yo, let's play the Ryan Mirror. But Atlanta actually tried very hard not to play the Ryan Mirror. Atlanta tried to play the Doomfist composition at first. They didn't seem to have as much success as we saw, the Houston Outlaws have against it. We saw the Ryan Mirror on Midtown. Gator got kind of deffed by the London Spitfire and by the Chadi. And, the big storyline of this series was the Atlanta Reign. We found out from Backbone weeks prior that he would be, that the Atlanta Reign had blacklisted them, essentially. And for the people who aren't aware, blacklisting essentially means that you decide not to scrim that team anymore. The justification that we were given by Backbone was that they just don't want to play against our rush style. They don't think we're a good team, so they decided to blacklist. That isn't an unreasonable thing. There's this community sentiment that it's like, oh my God, why would Atlanta do this? Teams do that to other teams all the time. How many scrims do you think the London Spitfire get against the San Francisco Shock? Probably very few, if any. So I wouldn't be surprised if the San Francisco Shock has also blacklisted the London Spitfire, right? So it's not an unreasonable thing that Atlanta Reign did, but it was a cool story and narrative for that match of Atlanta Reign didn't think it was worth scrimming against the London Spitfire. Let's see if that comes back to bite them in the ass later on, right? Like, that's the narrative that we had. Chadi did a good job of playing into that in the post-game interview, and I think it was a cool narrative. But then Selfless Brad came out on Twitter being upset about the narrative that was set. I didn't think there was anything wrong with it. I thought it made the match interesting, which is, what we're trying to do. We're trying to make the match interesting, especially when you have a weak team playing against the top end team and there ends up being an upset. I think it was an awesome match to watch. I think it was cool. And so then we go over to the Atlanta Reign versus Gladiators. Atlanta Reign got rolled by the Los Angeles Gladiators. But interestingly enough, the Gladiators played some rush. We like to talk about whether it was mental warfare playing the rush against Atlanta. Atlanta called it a cheese comp. But I think the Gladiators, this is a really good thing for them going to the Kickoff Clash, showing to teams that they're willing to play rush. Okay? They are willing to go aggressive and play a rush style, which people need to prepare for now if you're going to play it against the Gladiators. So really smart play, I think, on their end, while Atlanta Reign really struggled. If you guys are seeing a white screen, try refreshing, try doing your thing. Most people are not seeing a white screen. I can't help you with that. I've tried refreshing. I can't do anything with it. Restart your browser, try something new. I don't know what's happening there. I can't really help you guys on that. Also, let's put my black box here. But yeah, so I want to use this to transition into the Atlanta Reign, because I think the Atlanta Reign, it's kind of an interesting narrative, right? And storyline, because Atlanta Reign last year, they were kind of like the bullies in a way. That's sort of the persona that they took on. Of they're the bad boys. They like to trash talk. They like to have banter and that kind of stuff. And it's good for the league. I really like what the Atlanta Reign do, what they provide to the team, and I think that's a cool thing that they did. Some people don't like Atlanta for that. Some people love Atlanta for that. It's just the way it is. Some people like trash talk. Some people don't. This year, obviously, the Atlanta Reign expected to do well. Lost to London Spitfire. Got dominated by the Gladiators. It seems to be like flipping against them in a way. A lot of the trash talk that they said is coming back. The London Spitfire, it's not coming home. It was all good bants and that kind of stuff. Honestly, it's fun. The frustrating thing is that the Atlanta Reign have gotten, it feels like now that it's coming back at them, they're getting a little upset about it. And I think that's a little unreasonable at some point, because you can't just dish it out and then when it comes back at you, get upset about that. With that said, there are some people who are taking it too far, like in the Reddit community, on the Twitter community. Who cares about what Gator does in his private life? Who cares that you don't like Gator? You should not be personally attacking someone over those kind of things. You don't like NFTs? Great, that's your personality. Don't shit on Gator because he's in the NFT space or for whatever reason, right? Like, who cares, right? Keep it about the game. Gator is good for the league. It was kind of like the Dogman effect, right? Where like Dogman, he was adding spice. Everyone loves it when he adds spice. But then people are just so unreasonably rude when it comes back that it makes it... People are like, why does no one trash talk? Why does no one want to be the villain or the heel of the league? It's because the fans are crazy. You guys take it to an unreasonable level every time these things happen, right? So... I just want people to keep that in mind of like, yes, Atlanta Reign should get what's coming to them in terms of the banter coming back to them now that they're underperforming, they lost to London, all that kind of stuff. But it should stay at that. It should stay at banter. I know there are still people who are upset about, the stuff that, Selfless Brad is saying, or that, Legit RC came out. They're protecting their players as they should. And they are doing a good job of it, because some of the stuff that I've already seen, people are going too far and they need to calm out on it. It's just... enjoy the games, keep it about the game, keep it about the league, and just don't attack people's character and don't attack people's beliefs and stuff like that. Don't be the shitty part of the internet. And I feel like the community right now is rallying behind the negative sentiment right now, even if you're not the one providing that massive negativity, right? But people are feeding into that, and then that is escalating. Okay, so just be careful, because the people and the players, they are people too. And there is someone who reads that shit, or there is someone who sees the kind of negativity, and as much as people are like, that's a part of being a professional, doesn't mean you can't help do something about it and make it a little bit better for these guys. Because if Gator retired tomorrow, I wouldn't be surprised, because of the shit that he's having to go through, and they've said that it's affecting him. So I hope not. I think Gator's a great player. I think he's a great guy. I've talked to him in person before. He's honestly a really genuinely nice person, and he doesn't deserve any of this shit that's coming at him, because he is one of the people that has made the league interesting over the last couple of years when it's been hard for the league to be interesting. So, maybe take the foot off the gas a little bit. NFTs are a perfectly attackable belief. No, it is not. You don't like NFTs, that's your decision. You do not attack a person who likes NFTs. That you say it's a waste of money, that's on you. That's their money to use. That's their personal thing. It's kind of like a hobby at that point. Am I going to attack you for a hobby that you like, right? Like, it's not a reasonable reason to attack someone because they like NFTs or they've talked about NFTs. Why? Like, I don't understand why you guys have this mentality. Yeah, and I think a lot of people are crossing the line of like attacking him because he believes in NFTs. If you don't like NFTs, that's great. That doesn't mean you can hate on someone on the internet for it. Gator is not trying to actively push NFTs onto the community. He's just being public that he was in that space, right? Care about the environmental damage? Hey, you care about the environmental damage, there's a lot better issues that you can tackle than Gator on the internet, right? There's a million things killing the environment. getting mad at Gator isn't going to change anything about NFTs. It's not going to stop the environmental damage. It's not going to change anything. You want to save the environment? There's a million better ways to do it than attack Gator, okay? All right, let's move on from the Gator situation. Let's talk about Toronto, because I think this has sort of come to a head. The Toronto Defiant drama that happened last week, Halo tweeted out. I guess we can pull it up real quick. I think we talked about it a little bit, but let's just hit on this again. Halo tweeted out that Muse and Finale request trades from the Toronto Defiant. He still has this pinned? Bro. Muse and Finale request trades. It came out to say that it was is not true. The team, the Toronto Defiant manager, players, all these kind of things came out and said that this was false. They did not request trades. There was internal drama happening between Muse, Finale, and the team, but they did not request trades. It went back and forth. We talked about it last week, but it seems like Muse and Finale are coming back and playing within the roster. Toronto Defiant look like they've found their footing and they understand what they're doing. Not too much to talk about it. I just wanted to sort of briefly hit it that it sort of has come to a head, and then it seems like things are fine now. Okay. That's that. Let's do our power rankings then. Let's move on. Onto the power ranking. Twitch bug, yes, I am sorry if your stream is white. You say my stream is white. It is not supposed to be white. It is not white for most people. If you are upset about it, you got to do something in your end, because it is not like that for everyone else. There are people giving good feedback in chat. I cannot help you. All right, so let's talk about our power rankings. I think it is not unreasonable to have the West region, Dallas Fuel, San Francisco Shock, and the Los Angeles Gladiators in the top 3. I actually don't even think I'm going to move these around. I think Dallas Fuel is still number 1, San Francisco Shock is number 2, and the Los Angeles Gladiators are number 3. I believe in the Dallas Fuel the most. I think their Zaya composition is the best. And I think Shock and Gladiators might struggle to deal with it because no one is playing at the same caliber as Dallas Fuel. I could be wrong. I think any of these 3 teams are the favorites to win the entire Kickoff clash, right? Like, I think you can make arguments for anything. The Gladiators look great. They lost to, the San Francisco Shock in reverse sweep. And, they've had, they lost to the Dallas Fuel in the reverse sweep as well. But they can definitely beat both of those teams. But for that reason, I have to put them 3rd. Okay? So, at the end of the day, we'll find out this weekend. It's going to be an awesome weekend. We'll get to see all these teams play against each other at the final culmination of this meta, and we'll get a good look. Atlanta Reign has to plummet down our power rankings. Houston Outlaw, I think there's definitely a tier break here, and then we're going to put the Houston Outlaws. I think Houston Outlaws at 4 makes sense. As much as I don't think they look incredible, I don't know who I would put 4th above them. I kind of want to put Florida at 5. Is that crazy? What has Toronto done? Let's look at where Toronto's at, because I might be being too hard on Toronto Defiant. Toronto Defiant beat New York, they beat Boston, they got 3-0 by Dallas Fuel, but they've had a pretty easy run ever since their Houston Outlaws win. It's kind of hard to tell because they've kind of been beating up on the lower end. This was Paris when they were really bad. Boston and New York, they went 3-1. What about Florida Mayhem? Like, Florida Mayhem, they beat Washington, they beat New York, they lost to Houston. I kind of want to put Florida. I think I'm going to put Florida. Like, they're one of their only losses in, recently as a map fight to Houston, which I don't think is a bad loss. So I think I'm actually going to put Florida at 5. I think I put Toronto at 6. Why haven't they played Kariv yet? Because I believe they've been practicing with Sir Marjed, and Sir Marjed has been pounding. There's no reason to put Kariv in when Sir Marjed is playing as well. Toronto is so boring, so they should be lower based off that? Nah, it doesn't work like that. It's not how we think about it. Washington Justice or the Atlanta Reign? Man, how low does the Atlanta Reign sink? They just got rushed down though. Like, and that's the thing you need to remember is that they just got rushed down. The Justice beat them. Did Justice beat Atlanta? I guess Justice beat Atlanta in week 2. That was 2 weeks ago, though, when Washington was looking good. Since then, Washington has decided to also hit a wall. It's kind of like, what if we tier break? Hear me out. What if we do this? Is this unreasonable? What's the Reign record? I think Atlanta went 3-3. I think it makes sense. I think the inconsistency of the Washington Justice and the Atlanta Reign just gives me no confidence that they're going to be able to beat these other teams. I think I'm going to leave Atlanta below Washington because I believe Washington has more upswing. Like, going into this kickoff clash, I believe in the Washington Justice more than I believe in the Atlanta Reign. I think the Atlanta Reign, the way they've been talking, everything that's been going on, they just seem incredibly boomed. And I don't know if they're going to be able to, unless for some, they just flick a switch and they just gain all their confidence back. I don't see anything happening. Unless, what do we think? Higher? No. No. Because, okay, here's my point, right? I don't believe London Spitfire is a better team than Atlanta Reign. I don't believe that they're a better team than Atlanta Reign. They beat them, but that doesn't make them a better team. London number 1? Well, that's just unreasonable. I think I want to put London in this tier break. I'm gonna throw London in because I think they deserve to be here. I think they're in the bottom of this tier break. I don't think they're gonna overachieve anymore, but I think they are better than, they've proven themselves to be better than New York, Boston, and Paris. Time to block Custa in Paris. Well, I'm about to piss some more people off. I think New York goes to second to last. I think Boston goes there. Like, Boston obviously got brutalized by Dallas Fuel, but I think they look to be a good team. I think they're probably a better Zaya team than the Paris Eternal. From what I've seen of Punk and Crimzo, I think this, and then I think there's still the tier break to the Vancouver Titans. Vancouver looked better against the Shock, but better does not make me feel any better that they're going to go higher. Do you think NYXL should be in Titans tier? I'm thinking about it. Like, no, I don't think you can do this. Like, I don't think you can. Like, that just, I don't think they're that bad. They're on thin ice, though. They're a couple of bad matches away from going into the bottom tier. And I think that's the West. I think that's the West done. I think that makes the most sense. You can really see, like, the blocks of teams that we have here. These teams are just, like, this tier break, if I could name a tier break, it would be like, it would just be the unknown. Like, that's what this would be, the unknown. I don't know what to expect from any of these teams for different reasons at any moment, right? Yeah. Let's talk about the East. Let's talk about the East. So, I think what we're going to do is we're going to put these 4 teams in the same tier. Guangzhou's going to go bottom. And I actually think there might be a tier break here. Is Valiant better than Chengdu? How crazy is that? Valiant. They beat Chengdu, right? I think you have to say they're better than Chengdu. Like, and Valiant's gone to 5 versus Shanghai. They went to 5 versus Hangzhou, and they went to 5 versus Seoul Dynasty. Like, Valiant have not been bad. They have just not closed out. I think you have to give it, you know, like, there's literally no way, there's no way you can say Valiant isn't better than Chengdu because they also beat Chengdu. Philly number 1? Oh yeah, no, that's not. That's not how that works. I don't know how to do this. I'm going to put Philly 4th because I think Philly have been struggling in their last few series, but they definitely need to be in the same tier because I can see Philly, like, the top 4 and what we're actually going to see in the APAC region is the top. Like, I think any of those 4 teams can win and I would not be shocked. I literally think it's going to be who shows up in the playoffs, regardless of anything. I don't think there's crazy composition matchups and that kind of stuff. what actually happened this weekend? Let's remember where we came from. Who beat who? Spark just beat Philly. Shanghai just beat Seoul. Seoul beat Philly. I'm actually going to leave it here. You can make an argument for Spark over Seoul, but I don't like how many compositions the Spark are playing. I think Spark might get caught out playing against the best teams with their compositions because they're so random. Like, it could work for Spark having that unpredictability, and especially if you have like Shy Alpha, you just hard farming like we know they can definitely win it all. But I think you need to put... I think Shanghai, I'm putting Shanghai first because they have the experience. They have playoff experience. They know how to play as a team. And they look to be making improvements week in, week out. Like, they looked good against Seoul and they made a couple of really good plays. Seoul looked strong on the back of Smurf and Profit. I think they struggle to string it together from time to time. Like, they had like that one really bad Gibraltar attack in their match against Shanghai. They had some like weird spaghetti drops with some ultimates on Eichenwald, but they're close. Like, it's definitely close. If playoff P comes to play, anything can happen. So I think this is how I'm going to leave the APAC region as well. I think this is good. Guangzhou Charge is firmly in the bottom tier. They have not really had a lot of upside compared to some of these other teams. Like, Chengdu and Valiant have had good wins, had good matches. Charge haven't really had that very much at all. Like, they Charge went to 5 with Dragons, but if anything, I think that was Dragons playing badly, not Guangzhou Charge playing up. So we'll see. That's going to be my power rankings for heading into the kickoff clash this weekend. Obviously, we'll find out this weekend when we actually get to see these top end teams play and play for all the marbles. So let's do my brackets then. Oh boy. So let's get into these. Is there going to be... Oh, you click over here. I was trying to work out what that said. So let's get into my bracket. So San Francisco Shock taking on the Washington Justice. I don't know about Dragons being number 1. They look so disorganized. It's honestly just because of their experience. Like, I'm going to go playoff experience. That's what I'm going to use. Like, I think they understand this situation way better than other teams. Like, obviously, you can make an argument for Seoul, but Seoul also shit the bed at the drop of a hat. So I don't think there's a good answer of who to put at number 1. Washington Justice, San Francisco Shock. I'm actually going to 3-0. Like, I think Washington Justice are not going to have the answers. Even if Decay and Happy play well, I don't think that they're going to be able to do much against the San Francisco Shock. Shock just look much more coordinated. Like, I could see Washington taking a map if Shock get a little spicy with, like, subbing in Sam for certain things. Decay Zaya, if they play Decay Zaya, they've lost. Atlanta Reign versus Florida Mayhem. I'm going to go... Florida's going to win. Oh, man. Like, I think you have to buy into the fact that you think Atlanta is just going to be boomed. Like, I don't think they're going to unboom themselves unless they go in with no expectations and that just helps them. I'll give Atlanta a map. I think I'll give Atlanta a map. They're definitely a talented enough team to not get swept by Florida Mayhem. I could absolutely see Atlanta beating Florida, though. Like, Florida, as much as the way I consider Florida is I think they're a very well coached and managed team, but I think they do have a cap with their players. Their players are not as talented as some of these other teams at the top end, and I think that's where Florida Mayhem's going to get caught out. At this point, I hope Atlanta roll over and Air would be so... Dude, I would honestly be about that as well. I would love for Gator to just come out and just swing his balls around and just prove to everyone that Atlanta and himself aren't bad. Like, I would live for that story. I think Reddit would melt down, but I would be about it. And, like, they have the talent. Atlanta's a good team. Like, they have the talent. If they find a confidence and they find... Like, honestly, I think that whole team is just confidence. All right, let's have a look at the bottom end of the bracket. We got Houston Outlaws taking the Los Angeles Gladiators. I think the Gladiators are going to beat them, but I think it's going to be close. I think there is upset potential. Do I believe in Gladiators to win in map 5, actually? Like, I think it's going to be close, but, like, it's honestly Houston Outlaws versus Los Angeles Gladiators. It's who's going to throw less. That always seems to be the conversation we have, and both teams seems to have that, like, thing. actually don't know. Glad's 3-1 if they're prepared for the Doomfist. They have to know the Doomfist is coming, but that doesn't even, like... I think the Doomfist is still pretty solid, especially against the Winston comp that Gladiators like to play. Like, I think Xayah is really good against the Doomfist. But... have we seen the Gladiators play Xayah at all? I don't think Piggy's if Houston come out to play the Xayah, I think they're gonna struggle. I'm actually gonna go 3-1. I think if they go to map 5, Gladiators choke. Like, honestly, I legitimately believe that if they go to map 5 and it's controlled, Dante will come out and pound. But I think I'm gonna give it to Gladiators 3-1. I think that's more expected. Have Gladiators faced Doom? Not really. The only 2 teams that have played it is like Atlanta and Houston, like seriously. And Atlanta hasn't done it in a while. So, Toronto versus Dallas, I think Toronto's going to get booty bopped. Like, they've showed, like, Hop Xayah. It just is not the same level as Harmon. I think Harmon Xayah is going to be a problem for some of these teams. Played a little bit of Xayah on circuit against New York week 1. If something happened in week 1, is literally irrelevant at this point, right? So much has changed. Hopper has been player of the game. Yeah, I just don't think their Xayah compositions are anywhere near as good. Like, who did they play against? Like, Toronto didn't play great teams, if I remember. Like, he got player of the game, but they were, like, beating up on... I want to say, like, Vancouver and... Boston and New York are the teams that they beat up on, right? So, like, even losing 2 maps to these teams, like New York and Boston, I just don't... I think Dallas is just a different beast right now. San Francisco Shock, I think, are going to 3... I'll give a map to Florida. I think there's a world in which Florida pulls something together, strings something together. I would be shocked if Florida got over 1 map, though. I just think San Francisco have better talent on their roster. They're playing too well. I don't think, like... Doesn't matter how good Hydron and Checkmate play, they're not going to be able to match proper Kilo, Sam. Shock lost maps, NYXL and Titans, and that's why I'm giving Florida a map. Is Shock aren't flawless in a way. Like, they have shown the ability to sort of fumble a little bit and drop a map, but I don't see the Shock losing more than 1 map. So that's how I feel about it. Los Angeles Gladiators versus Dallas Fuel. I'm going to go to the Dallas Fuel. I'm going to say 3-1. I think the Gladiators, especially on the back of like Patty Fan on his Soldier, I think Patty Fan Soldier is going to be the crux for the Gladiators. The path to victory for the Los Angeles Gladiators is Patty Pan. Sorry, it's actually Patty Pan. I've had myself corrected by League Ops. Patty Pan. If Patty Pan can have a good tournament and he can get some confidence, he can work out how to use his visors better, Gladiators can win the whole tournament. But I think a lot rides on that because I think that has been their biggest issue so far. LA Gladiators going to play the wrong tanks. I just think Gladiators have very heavily leaned into the Winston composition, and I think the Xayah is better than the Winston composition. The only way I see Gladiators beating the Dallas Fuel is if they come out on Rush, and Dallas don't have an answer to it. Because we haven't really seen a lot of Rush versus the Xayah by high-level teams, right? So I have no idea how that interaction plays. Like, does Ryan just run over the Xayah? There's a world in which I could see the Xayah getting charged and like nanoed and just melting everyone. I don't know, but I think I have to put my faith in the Dallas Fuel. Let's go to the lower bracket. I think Xayah runs over the Ryan. Yeah, I don't think the Ryan Rush would be great against the Xayah because I think the Xayah could live long enough to just beam them. But I don't know. Like, as the answer is, I don't know. They should flip the lower bracket so we get more new matchups. Oh, so you're saying Washington, Atlanta? Well, I see what you mean. Yeah, Washington, Atlanta, because the winner of Washington, Atlanta is going to play Florida, and Atlanta's already played Florida. It's going to feel bad if Atlanta beat Washington only to lose to Florida again. I see what you mean. Yeah, I think that's a good call. I wonder if that's something that someone could bring up to League Ops. Matt! Everyone at Matt Mr. X in chat right now. Maybe he'll be here. But rematches, I don't think rematches are cool. As someone who has played a tournament before where you lose to the same... feels really bad when you lose to the same team twice. Like, it feels really bad. to just get knocked out by the same team twice. And like you can't really show much. Yeah, like I like as Sickly said, I think rematches in like the lower bracket finals and stuff like that, but in the grand finals, but I don't think that should be in the elimination rounds. I think Washington. How much do I hate the Washington Justice? How much do I full hate? They literally rolled them. They did play, right? They 3-0'd. But that was week 2 when Washington was good. Washington have since dropped the spaghetti. I think it really comes down to the narrative that I believe. Do I believe Atlanta are boomed? And I'm going to say yes. I'm going to give Atlanta a map, but I think... No. Scott, no. I am not choosing the Washington Justice out of spite. No, out of spite. I can't do it. I tried as soon as I put that number 3 number next to the Washington Justice, I couldn't do it. We're just going to go 3-1 Andy for the Atlanta Reign. You'll boom your own bracket? Hey, hatred is a powerful drug. Okay? Never again. All right, Houston Outlaws versus Toronto Defiant. I think Houston Outlaws are going to be good. I think, as much as I don't love Houston over Toronto, I actually think this will be a close match. I'm going to go 3-2 Houston. I think Dante comes in for map 5 and pounds on the Doomfist to beat Toronto Defiant. I think that's how it goes. No way Houston wins this. I believe in Houston. I think people are disregarding Houston too much. I trust their coaching staff. I think they understand their strengths and their weaknesses. Do I think that's going to be able to get them to beat the Los Angeles Gladiators? Hell no. I think they're going to lose 3-1 to the Los Angeles Gladiators again. But I think they can get past. I think they can get past the Toronto Defiant. Atlanta Reign over Florida Mayhem. I think Atlanta Reign's going to lose. I'm going to give 3-1. I'm just going to go 3-1 Andy for the matchup again. You can't change the brackets. Actually, I'm going to go 3-2. I think Atlanta beats Washington and then they get confidence, but they're not good enough. You know what? Actually, let's go spicy. I think Atlanta comes back and wins 3-2. This is what we're doing. Atlanta comes back and wins 3-2. They eventually get bought by the Gladiators, but that will be considered a success. And then they get booty bought by the Gladiators, like not close again. But I think Atlanta Reign's going to make a run. Atlanta doesn't have the same coaching. But I've committed to them beating the Washington Justice. And I think if they can get some confidence, they can beat the Florida Mayhem. Bad take. Why not flip? I don't know. I don't know why they're not flipping the lower bracket. We'll see. Like, maybe they'll do that. I think that would be a good call. I don't know how deep they are already. I think Florida is too well coached. I think that is fair, but I think if Atlanta, like if Kai is playing well, and then like they play like maybe like Venom Tracer, like I think Venom Tracer could like take over the game. I don't know. I think there's win conditions for Atlanta. Do I believe in them? No, but I'm too lost in the source to be able to defend, to say it. I feel like I need to add something spicy into my bracket because right now I'm just a 3-1 Andy of like, I'm just going by seeding. Seeding is king. So that's no fun in that. Dallas Fuel is going to 3-2 the I'm going to give Shock a map because I think there are going to be maps. Like if they have to play a Dorado or a Watchpoint Gibraltar, I think Shock gets the advantage. But I think anywhere that they can play Zaya, which is a lot of maps, I think Shock is going to lose. I think Shock is going to lose. And then Gladiators versus Shock. I'm going to go for San Francisco. Shock is going to win 3-2. And then Dallas. This is the worst website ever. This is Dallas is going to win 4-2. Nah, actually, I'm going to mix it up. I think Gladiators beat Shock, and I think Dallas wins 4-1. I'm going to mix it up. Let's go spicy. Let's go a little bit spicy. I think Gladiators are going to beat Shock in the rematch. Or like in the head-to-head. I think Gladiators are going to do it. Map 5. Let's go spicy. I think the Shock rookies are going to drop the spaghetti. I think they're going to struggle to be able to play at the same level, and I think Gladiators might take over. A little, do I really believe in it? I don't know, but it'll be cool if it pays off. This would be, all I'm saying, this would be a really cool tournament. If my bracket comes off, this would be cool. We'd have the Atlanta Reign redemption storyline. We'd have the Gladiators beating the Shock. We'd have like the Shock downfall in a way, Dallas fuel dominance. I like it. Atlanta was so bad this stage. How many times have we said Atlanta is bad only for them to make a crazy run through the playoffs? 2020 playoffs. Was it 2020? Yeah. 2021 playoffs. That's on the back of Gator and Hawk. These guys, I think they come in with just nothing to lose. I think Atlanta comes in with nothing to lose. Yeah, and in 2019, Atlanta beat Shock. I think Atlanta comes in with nothing to lose, already being down bad, and they play with confidence. And I think Atlanta needs to tap back into we're a for-fun team. If they, that's what got them through the 2021 playoffs of, they're like, we know that we're playing non-traditionally. We're just a for-fun team. We're not, as thing. They come in with that same level of confidence. I think they can make a run. I think they can make a run. Much like London, yeah, in a way, right? I think Atlanta is too boom. And my bracket could absolutely fall apart just because Atlanta is boom. If Atlanta just comes in with no confidence at all, they're going to get rolled. But do you think Dallas should let Doa and Edison stand when they want to play Widow Genji to keep synergy? I don't think so. I think you want to keep in Sparkle, but I just don't think you should play Genji in NA. I feel like Winston teams, especially against the teams that they need to beat, they're going to play Shock and Gladiators. Those teams know how to play against the Genji, and I don't think Dallas have looked good when Sparkle has come in to play the Genji because I feel like Sparkle just can't get anything done in this current meta. All right, Philadelphia Fusion versus the Hangzhou Spark. Oh god, this is actually a coin flip. This whole bracket is going to be a massive coin flip. I'm going to say Spark 3-1. I don't know why. I feel like Philly's in trouble. I think Philly is going to perform the worst out of these 4 teams. They have a lot of rookies already, and they seem to be struggling to find an identity later on in this stage. Stop 3-1ing. 3-1ing is the best thing. The thing about 3-2 is 3-2 is a big call, and 3-0 is also a big call. 3-1ing is do you think it's going to be competitive, but one team is better? Put 3-1. That's honestly the best way to do it. Do I think this is going to go to map 5? Maybe. 3-1 is the most common score, I believe so, yeah. Seoul Dynasty versus the Shanghai Dragons. Here's what we're going to do. Seoul's going to win 3-2. Okay? And then Dragons are going to bop the Philadelphia Fusion. Oh, man. This just feels bad for Philly fans. Then Shanghai Dragons is going to bop the Fusion. And they're going to get mad. And then Seoul is going to beat Spark. No. Then Spark is going to beat Seoul in map 5. Shanghai Seoul is going to rematch. Shanghai is going to beat the crap out of Seoul. And then Shanghai wins 4-2. No, you know what? We're going to make it a banger because Shanghai always makes it a banger. We're going to go to map 7. I think APAC is going to be crazy. Like, I think Shanghai's going to get knocked down early, but I think they're going to have a redemption arc. They always do. Hot take, Houston will make some sort of run and reach upper or lower finals due to land and homestand buff. I can see that. I can see that. They played really well on land recently. Spark Copium. I think Spark's actually a good team. Like, I think, if anything, Spark is being underrated because people don't know the team as well. I think Seoul and Philly are going to have their continuous franchise issues of underperforming in the playoffs. I hope I'm wrong. I hope Shanghai don't win. But something in my heart of heart tells me Shanghai will work out how to get it done. Hot take, Washington put Zaya on Decay and channel 2020 playoffs. I think that is a terrible idea. I think the way that Zaya was played in 2020 playoffs is not that much like to what it is played these days. Disney wins it all. All right, and I want to say for this APAC region, literally, I could have the most wrong predictions ever, and I would be okay. The APAC region is a massive, massive clusterfuck. Like, it really is. Any of these teams can beat each other. It really comes down to the day. I don't think there is a lot of matchup differentials like we talk about in NA. I don't think there are these like big matchup things. I think for the most part, these guys are generally playing the same thing. They're leaning heavily onto the Winston. You know, Hongzhou's doing a little bit of spicy stuff, but for the most part, they're all just playing the dive. So it's going to come down to which team has the pop-off potential because they all have incredible DPS duos. Think about this, right? Think about this. MN3 Zest Carpe is the DPS line for Philly. Alpha Yi Shy is DPS duo for Hongzhou Spark. Seoul Dynasty have Prophet Fitz, and Shanghai Dragons have Lip Fleta. Who are you? Their DPS lines are so stacked, like unreasonably stacked. So I think it could go anyway. Space on Zaya with the difference maker for the Glads in the LA versus Dallas matchup. I think if Gladiators try and put Space on Zaya for their match against Dallas, they will get fucking rolled. And it will not be close. No one can, if you are a team and you try and play against Dallas by playing the Zaya composition, you will lose. And it won't be close. No one has shown an ability to beat Dallas at what they do. Alpha you Genji or who are you Genji? Ah, man, I want to say who are you because it's the devil I know, but Alpha Yi's been impressing me a lot. Lol, he left out Stalker. Well, Stalker's barely played for Seoul already, right? I don't expect Stalker to be the difference maker for the Seoul Dynasty. And with that, that is it. That is the weekly recap. That is my bracket. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you very much for watching. Quick reminder, I will not be doing a lot of replays or like reviews this weekend because I will be in Texas. I will be casting these matches with Jaws. I know, I'm not a caster, but hey, I guess I am for this weekend. It's going to be a really fun event. It's going to be awesome. If you guys end up in Texas, come say hi. Give me a wave. I appreciate you all. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you guys next time.